Greetings and salutations, loyal viewers of this channel. My name is Sean, and once again, we are back on this post-Black Lives Matter riots trend of major metropolitan areas putting together reparations committees in order to say that all the problems that befall Black Americans are due to the white man, evil white racism, and today, the person who is championing this is the mayor of Chicago, Brandon Johnson, making Chicago the second largest city in this union after Los Angeles to put together this reparations committee. Now, we're going to get into this. I'm going to break this down for all of you, but before we do, I want to thank all of you who support this channel via actualjusticewarrior.com/join.
Give me the money. Give me the money. Okay.
The Juneteenth flag raising event downtown today as Mayor Johnson announcing plans for a reparations task force.
So right off the top, I just wanted to point out for everyone out there in the audience that I had no idea that there was a specific flag for Juneteenth, which honestly is quite annoying. It is quite absurd. And the reason why is because Juneteenth was unfortunately passed into law as a federal holiday as Juneteenth Independence Day rather than Emancipation Day as a way to give Black people their own separate Independence Day from the United States of America when that makes no sense at all. On top of that, Juneteenth is really a Texas holiday, and if you wanted to do something for the emancipation of slavery, what you could do is have a federal holiday for the ratification of the 13th Amendment, which actually did that. That would make more sense. But instead, this artificially created holiday that was essentially put forward by the TV show Blackish in 2017 is now a federal holiday and used as a jumping off point for people in the left wing to decide that they want to extract resources from white people because aren't white people racist? And now we have this new day that's all about hating the white person rather than acknowledging the objective good that ending slavery actually was in this country. Now, of course, Brandon Johnson is among the worst of the worst. This guy is a nonstop race baiter, nonstop race hustler. Every single failure of his administration is the fault of white men in his city, white men in his state, or white men in other states, and he can never take accountability for anything, and that philosophy is infused in every way into this proposed reparations committee, which of course was done through executive order, meaning that this wasn't a legislative push or anything like that. This was something that Brandon Johnson decided that he wanted to announce now, because what everybody wants to know in the city of Chicago is that white people owe Black people money, according to the Black mayor who is oppressed in the city of Chicago.
And Johnson's executive order begins with an apology on behalf of the city for the historical wrongs committed to Black Chicagoans and their ancestors.
Reparations will be an investment in our neighborhoods and our people. Reparations will unlock the doors for prosperity to fully flow through the neighborhoods that have been disinvested in for decades. And as we grapple with the challenges and the hard-fought victories to get to this point, we must never forget our goal to make sure that reparations become a reality for Black residents of this city.
So I just want to point out a few things about the words that were said by the mayor of the city of Chicago. First and foremost, when he talks about our people, he's not talking about residents of the city of Chicago, people that he actually represents. He's talking about Black people. He's giving a speech about how Black people in particular are owed money in the city of Chicago, and they've been the victim of disinvestment and all this stuff throughout history. And I just want to point out that when Brandon Johnson talks about investment, he's not talking about private sector investment, actual investment that expects a return. What he's talking about is government spending, because this is a government spending program that he is pushing under a different name. And in reality, the worst neighborhoods in the city of Chicago, just like across this country, a lot of these Black neighborhoods have an excess of federal dollars being infused into their communities. In fact, a lot of those federal dollars end up being wasted. They end up backfiring because they are a poor substitute for actual investment from actual private firms, because those people actually weigh the risks of whether or not they're going to put their money there. One of the things that you could actually do if you want to increase investment in certain areas is bring bring down the crime rate. What you see time and time again is not evil white racism preventing stores and businesses from opening up in these particular areas. It's the fact that they're not profitable in these particular areas, because if they're grocery stores or they're places like Walmart, which by the way all shut down in the city of Chicago, they keep getting stolen from to the point where that business model doesn't make sense there. So Brandon Johnson is blaming white people and all their evil white racism for all the problems black Chicagoans face, rather than actually address the problems from within the community that would actually improve the community. And by the way, we've seen this across this country time and time again with groups that are legitimately negatively discriminated against. Jews, Koreans, we have black people from the Caribbean, Armenians, all these different ethnic groups in the United States of America through various times have faced some level of discrimination, and sometimes they face levels of discrimination not only inside the United States of America, but the world over. And what do these people do? They end up working together. They develop high social trust, and that allows them to be successful, not just in the US, but everywhere in the world. And a lot of black people pre these 60s welfare programs actually did have these associations that did work together to help improve the station of the black American during the Jim Crow era. So in the face of oppression, so it's not something that black people could not overcome, because they were actually doing it in the past. Again, from 1940 to 1960, the black poverty rate fell by half in this country. Half during that period. The rate in which progress continued after these welfare programs were introduced specifically to help black people as a form of reparations by another name slowed down dramatically. It actually, in some cases, got worse for black Americans. So helping them through government handouts actually hurts them. But of course, Brandon Johnson can never admit that, because the power to spend more money is all he's after. And of course, he is a black person and a resident of Chicago. So anything that chucks out checks to him, he's going to be in favor of. So this is one of the most absurd, stupid, corrupt policies you could possibly have. And what makes matters worse is that the one person who's redirecting money away from black Chicagoans and black Chicago neighborhoods, public dollars that is Brandon Johnson. He's given it to the illegal migrants. He's getting so much crap for it. So if anybody has done this in the modern era in recent history, it's him. But of course, there's no accountability for it. There's not even an apology for it.
So this executive order creates a reparations task force that will create a definition and framework for reparations, identify areas for restorative action like in housing, jobs, education, criminal justice. It'll conduct a comprehensive study of the harmful policies that have contributed to segregation and poverty in Chicago. So think about things like housing discrimination, redlining, and the construction of interstates that divided neighborhoods, etc. And finally, it will make recommendations to the mayor and city council for action. The mayor has pledged $500,000 for this effort in the current city budget. No word on whether the study will come up with a funding source to provide resources for reparations.
So first of all, I just want to point out that Brandon Johnson is putting together this commission to study the issue of reparations, propose a framework for reparations, but he's already in favor of the reparations. And you listen to the list of everything, they're all different left-wing programs that he already supports, so you already know how this is going to go. Criminal justice reform. They're going to hamstring the police even more, making things worse in black areas in the city of Chicago, which of course is going to drive them further into poverty, because guess what? Crime drives poverty, not the other way around. And then that is going to be used as an excuse to attack white people even more, because that's what Brandon Johnson's all about. Housing discrimination. I can't believe they mentioned redlining. To be clear, redlining, I think, was instituted in 1934 and then was ended in 1968. And yet we're still hearing about this program. We're still hearing about the problems of this FDR era kind of thing, the grading of neighborhoods. The fact of the matter is, the problems with these neighborhoods are based on how people in these neighborhoods behave now. They're based on their credit worthiness, and no amount of, one period of time for a little bit, this ended up happening, therefore we're going to pretend like that's still what's going on now 60 years later, because we don't want any accountability for people in this area. It's absurd.
38th Ward Alderman Nick Spado acknowledges the evils of slavery, but says he believes this task force is questionable.
So look, they're going to cut to somebody who's against this, an alderman, and I just want to say I'm fine that he's against this. But in reality, did he have to say, I acknowledge the evils of slavery, but this ridiculous and absurd program that Brandon Johnson is just trying to force his agenda through under its name, I'm against it because I think there are problems with it. Like, stop giving these caveats. Everybody understands slavery is bad. And you know who understands that more than anyone? People from the United Kingdom who worked tirelessly to end slavery around the world, the American people who had our deadliest war to end slavery and then worked to end slavery around the world. So the idea that we need to be lectured about this is absurd in every possible way. The idea that you need to say, listen, slavery was bad, but I'm against this ridiculous wealth transfer program that is being done for racial benefits for a mayor who is heavily reliant on pandering to black people and demonizing white people. It's absurd. Cut the first part off and just make your point. Make your statement.
Who divisive is going to divide us even more? By us, I'm saying the city. Not the council. I don't know what the fairness about it would be. Of course, they didn't come out with the report yet. Maybe the report will say, no, it's not necessary, but I highly doubt that.
So, look, this guy did say, hey, look, they haven't dropped their report yet. Maybe the report will say it's highly unnecessary, but he doubts that. And I can all but guarantee that that will not happen. Every one of these stupid reparations committees hires black activists to say that they're entitled to all this money, and they produce ridiculous results. I remember in San Francisco, they wanted just to start, and by the way, people got angry at this, $5 million in one-time payments, and then housing for residents of San Francisco that are black that costs only $1, and a bunch of other things, about 200 of them, that are absurd in every possible way. So we expect the city of Chicago to do something similar, maybe even worse, maybe a little better. It depends on what you think. Is Brandon Johnson more woke than the black people of the city of San Francisco or less woke? It's up to you. But yeah, this is just one giant virtue signal by Brandon Johnson, who is desperate to get the attention of black voters that he's losing in droves due to the fact that he's the only person who's pulling public resources from black people and giving them to illegal migrants. Now, of course, I want to leave this question up to you guys out there in the audience. Do you think reparations is good? Is it something that you support? No, I'm just kidding. I know people watch my videos are going to be against this, but what do you think are some of the recommendations that this committee is going to come to the conclusion of? Leave me your best suggestions for what Brandon Johnson's hand-selected committee is going to say black people are entitled to down in the comments below. As usual, if you like the video, show them by leaving a like, subscribe for more content, follow me on my social media, support me via the support link in the description of the video. This has been me talking about Brandon Johnson blaming white people for everything yet again. Till next time.